I was born 17 years ago. For the past 6 months, I've been in my basement playing Skyrim. But for all those hours, I've never understood what the hell has been going on. I scoured the internet, searching for wikis, to find even the most obscure events in the Elder Scrolls. Behold, sunlight now enters my room. These are the early hours of the morning, and my few moments of free time. Fueled by obscene amounts of caffeine, I search for the events of the Elder Scrolls lore.
Pyandonea is an island continent located far southwest of Tamriel. Well, we don't know that much about the island itself. We do know that it is highly populated, and among the, continents such as Atmora, Akvir, Yokuda, we actually have had quite a bit of contact with Pyandonea, but that hasn't exactly been a good thing, as we'll see later on. But anyways, we do know that it is a very tropical place, lots of rainforests scattered throughout multiple islands, and multiple rare species. The, main inhabitant, you could call it, or the dominant species, is the Merimar. They are, the name literally translates into tropical elf. They're known to possess strange chameleon-like skin and have the ability to blend into their backgrounds. It's also said that they have big, dark eyes. Well, it was once believed that the Merimar of Pyandonea were actually exiled from the Somerset Isles, but now we know that this just isn't possible because of translations on the Crystal Tower that say that the Merimar were actually separated from the rest of the Mer in Eldmaris, not Somerset. For those of you who don't know, the Crystal Tower is an ancient structure located in the Somerset Isles. It unfortunately only exists in ruins now due to the Oblivion Crisis, where the Daedra razed it to the ground. But it's also kind of the closest relic we still have to actual Eldmaris. By the way, Eldmaris is the fabled homeland of the elves. It probably doesn't exist in any real form anymore. We do know that people have gone out and tried to find it, but they have always come back empty-handed. In fact, the only source that we actually have that says it even existed is the Elder Scrolls, and probably some of the ruins on the Somerset Isles, but it doesn't appear to be unknown anymore. So, now, from going to the Crystal Tower to Eldmaris, by the way, since that's literally all the information we have on Eldmaris, that's probably the closest I'm ever going to get to doing an episode on that, but getting back to the story, so the leader of the Merimar is Orgnon, who is kind of their self-styled king. He's immortal, of course, and according to legend, he was phenomenally wealthy. Actually, he was an Eldmer nobleman, supposedly, back on Eldmaris, who used his finances to launch a rebellion against the land and, the governing body. So, him and his followers got banished from Eldmaris to Pyandonea. And kind of like, I don't know if you want to call this a curse or what have you, but an impenetrable mist got also put around Pyandonea. Kind of, I don't know, I guess by whatever entity or governing body forced Orgnum and his followers to go over there. But, yep, and so they did that, and apparently Orgnum and the people from Pyandonea, his followers, never disturbed Eldmaris enough again, or ever again. So, yeah, that's kind of all we have for exactly how Pyandonea got settled, and even a fair amount of that is speculation. So, I'm assuming this is either in the Dawn or Merethic eras, possibly really early First Era. We don't have anything close to a factual date for this. But Orgnum himself is actually a very interesting character. He's again said to be phenomenally wealthy due to the coffer. Now, the coffer, it's unclear how he got to possess this thing, but it's basically a small chest with an unlimited amount of gold in it. How exactly we know about this is something we'll get into a bit later on. It's also said that King Orgnum has visited all 5 remaining continents on Nirn, so Pyandonea, Tamriel, Akavir, and Atmora. So we know that Orgnum never disturbed Eldmaris again, possibly because Eldmaris kind of doesn't exist anymore. However, the other Aldmer in Somerset weren't that lucky. So for the majority of Somerset's history, the Merrimer have been attacking and raiding left, right, and center. So every one of these battles has been led by Orgnum himself, and apparently he's not only immortal, but actually appears to grow more youthful by the century. So, yeah, have fun explaining how that works. Interestingly enough, so this just shows you like how crazy the Merrimer are for waging war, but no historian or anyone at the Imperial Geographic Society has counted the number of wars and strategies employed against Somerset, but sometime, like, even though a lot of them are pretty brilliant, they just end up not working. So, it's not for lack of effort though. We have literally lost count of how many times the Merrimer have attacked and have tried to conquer the Somerset Isles. So, we only really know have broader details on just a few of these invasions, and even then, again, we don't have too much source material to go on. So, one that's of particularly worthy mention, and this is actually the only thing that gives us our one glimpse of Pyandonea and what it looks like, is in Second Era 486. So, a small Merrimori fleet was seen off the coast of Alnor, and King Hidalith, again my pronunciation, butchering warning there, gave the order for his navy to chase them down. So, the Merrimer fleet turns tail back to Pyandonea, and the Altmeri fleet, so the High Elf one from Somerset, follows them. But, surprisingly, this turned out to be a bad idea. So they're going through uncharted waters, and they wander into, surprise surprise, an ambush in Pyandonea itself. So, the entire Alinor fleet was destroyed, except for one single warship that managed to return to the Somerset Isles. And it described it as, and I'm quoting right here, the land as a sea jungle, massive plateaus spilling over with vegetation from mazes around valleys of the ocean. Waving tendrils of kelp trap all but the Merrimer's own ships, and provide a well-camouflaged home for the sea serpents that are Orgnum's guards, and occasional mounts. mists and storms spill over the land, further disorientating one's views. So, yeah, on top of just kind of being a harsh geographic location, especially if you're not used to it, the Mariner also have special magic that allows them to command serpents, and from the looks of things, they might have control over the weather to some degree. So, having your entire fleet annihilated isn't exactly great, but that even one ship managed to survive is actually really an incredible testament to the Altmer maritime ability. So, we just have a naval battle, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us are having trouble wrapping our heads around just exactly how a battle works on Nirn, like the Elder Scrolls. So we actually know that cannons surprisingly exist. We've seen them on Stros Mackay, but it's kind of assumed that no one else really uses these, even the Red Guards, just because, well, we've got magic. So yeah, we also do know that the Altmer actually have gem-encrusted mini trebuchets, which are like catapults that can like fire fireballs, but I'm assuming that most of this is just done with mages, because the only time I can recall where we've actually kind of seen a naval battle is when the East Empire Company is launching a attack against some pirates, and we see the ship, well, not really the ship, but we see fireballs raining down on the island, and I'm assuming that that's magic. So, the last documented appearance we have of the Mariner is pretty long ago in 3rd Era, 110. So, again, Skyrim, of course, happens later on the 4th Era, and so yeah, all the Pyandonea stuff is pretty far in the past. So, a short while before the Pyandonean navy launched an attack against the Empire, we know that King Orgnum met with Queen Potima in solitude, so the Wolf Queen, who apparently probed him into doing this invasion. Whether or not she actually did, we don't know. Some sources credit it to her, but considering how often the Mariner have attacked the Somerset Isles, I guess you don't really need much of a pretext for that. But yeah, considering how little sources we have, I'm gonna leave this one up to whatever you want to make out of it. So, this attack ends up being known as the War of the Isles, and it's kind of one of the... I'm not really sure what to call it, but it's definitely huge. It actually looked like they were finally going to succeed and conquer the Somerset Isles, but then our friends the Sigic Order intervened. So, from their island of Ereteum, they actually conjured up a huge storm, and that sunk most of the Pyandonean invasion fleet. The rest was kind of either destroyed or at least forced into retreating by Antiochus Septim, the reigning emperor at the time. So we've got the Imperial forces and the King of the Somerset Isles forces fighting off the Pyandonean fleet after it got mauled by the storm conjured up by the Sigic Order. Also, a lot of transport ships were captured during that time, so I guess we got to have a look at some Mariner boats, but no one bothered to write about it, so yeah, can't really go on much there. But this is actually where that coffer, the magical chest that Orgnum had with the unlimited gold, got retrieved from, and it later ended up getting into the hands of the Eternal Champion, so the guy you play as in Arena, if anyone knows that. If you've actually done that, gold star for you. So this is the last time, of course, we see Pyandonea, or the Mariner, at least for now. So, what exactly they've been doing all this time, again, between the different eras, it's, yeah, a pretty long time. Kind of the best argument I've read, and really the only one we kind of see, is that without the coffer, Organum just can't afford to build another fleet. After this, the Kingdom of Pyandonea kind of fell off the, kind of scale as, like, being a major world power, but, again, really, anything outside of Tamriel, it's kind of hit or miss, I guess, just in terms of how often we see it. This turned out to be very good for the Altmer, because they're not getting raided constantly anymore. It's also suspected that maybe Organum just doesn't want to risk another fleet in battle if the Psijic Order is against him. The Psijic Order, by the way, is a crazy elite order of monks on an island that disappears and reappears and disappears, depending on, I guess, what the political situation on Nirn is. Also, I've heard some arguments that Organum was actually toppled after a defeat this big, but when you consider he's been, like, basically a key political figure since the Eldamaris times, I'm not even sure what era to call that, I'd wager he's still in power. But, yeah, that's it for today. I'm not really, sure what else can be said, so thank you so much for watching. Question of the day, do you prefer it when I, cover sort of the more mainstream stuff that's in the games, like the Dark Brotherhood, or get insanely obscure, like today, or the Akviri invasions? So be sure to let me know. Either way, I plan on continuing doing kind of both sides of the, lore spectrum, but just as far as, what to give priority for the time being. And of course, if there's a topic you'd like me to cover, please do not hesitate to ask.